as you can see right here, we are going to talk about the second part of the flow control. Last week, we talked about the for loop, right? It is a very important kind of the loop for flow control. Today, we are going to talk about another thing that is called conditional statement. Conditional statement, specifically if-else structure. Okay, we are going to talk about this. And for the second part, you can see we will take region of interest and thresholding as the example. You may not understand what these two terms means, but anyway, you can just remember this. We are going to talk about this. So basically, this kind of the process, region of interest and thresholding, can help us identify the specific area of the image that we'd like to perform further analysis, okay? So this is the way that we can do this. Let's start from the very first part, if else. And you can see there is another thing right here, switch case. But I think it is pretty similar with what we did in the last week. We introduced the for loop, right? But I also said something about we do have another choice, while loop. However, if you are the layman, you are the beginner for MATLAB, you can just forget about the second part. So I say you can forget about the while loop, okay? Today is pretty similar. If you are a beginner, you can just focus on the if-else. You can forget about the switch case. It's just another version of the if-else. So anyway, if you only know if-else, I think it can pretty much do many things that if you want to perform this kind of the conditional statements, okay? So let's just focus on the if-else today, okay? For the very first part, you can see, I'll try to give you an example. If we do have a data list, for the left-hand side, we did take this example before. When we were talking about the structure array, you can see this is 1 by 30 structure array. And we have 7 different fields right here. Name, age, gender, height, weight, predata, and post-data. So I think you should be familiar with this example. However, you can take a further look right here. I delete a part of data. So you can see for normal control, the subject 26 right here. You can see for the post data field, you can see it becomes empty right here because I delete the data for this subject in this field on purpose, okay? And pretty similarly, I also delete the data for subject 29 right here, but I delete the data from the field of predata right here. Okay, so you can see now there are empty matrix right here. They are not 8 by 450 double array. They are basically the empty matrix right here, okay? So what we are going to do, today we are going to do something like we will load the data from nc.mat. You can check, you do have this mat file right here. You can load it to the workspace, okay? You can take a look on it, double click on it. You will immediately find out, yes, we do have some empty matrix right here. And we can also code this kind of the matrix like the missing data, okay, missing data. That means we don't have full of the data set right here. We miss a part of the data set right here, okay? So right here, what we can do, we can do something like check. We can check the data integrity right here. Integrity means whether the data set is complete or not. Do we miss some of the data right here, okay? So we can do this kind of thing. We can check the data integrity. We can check the data integrity, subject by subject. So we go for first subject, we can check whether we have all the data right here. If yes, we go for next one. However, if for any subject right here, for example, NC26 right here, we find that actually we miss the data set for post data field right here. Then what we can do, we can remove the subject from the whole data set. So this is so-called data integrity. We need a complete data set for the analysis. So if any subject right here, okay, has the missing data, we will simply remove the subject from our data set, okay? And then finally, you can take a look on the right-hand side. You can see there is no longer the NC26, right? Because we removed this subject. Also, we don't have the NC29 right here, right? Because we also remove this subject because there is a missing data for the pre-data field right here. So once you finish this kind of the data check, you can save the data as a new meta file. You can name it as the NC, but you can put another word right here like check. Okay, nccheck.met. Okay, this is what you can do. So basically, you can think about the flow. We need to go through, subject one by one. So we need a for loop, right? For the subject 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we need a conditional statement. If the subject has the missing data, we remove this subject from the data set, right? And then we go for next one. It's pretty like the for loop. Again, we use the conditional statement. If the subject has the missing data, again, I remove this subject from our data set. Okay, so basically this is what we are going to do today. The basic structure for this kind of the if-else, you can take a look right here. You can see, again, it should start with the if. Okay, if with a space right here, then you can see if, these two letters should turn into blue because if means something for MATLAB, okay? And then you can see for very last line for this if-else structure, it should end it with end. Again, END, and it should be labeled in blue, okay, automatically by MATLAB, okay? And you can see there is an else right here. Okay, so if else means if we do match the condition for this one, then we go for this statement. Otherwise, or else, we go for this statement. So it's more like, two choose one, okay? You can pick one statement from these two possibilities right here. So let's take a real example right here. For example, we have a variable. We assign 99 to it. We have another variable b right here. We assign 81 to this variable. Now we try to make a comparison. So if, else, and end, you can see the structure right here. And after this if, you need to put a condition statement. So the condition statement is pretty simple, simply like this one. If A is larger or equal to B, okay? If this condition is matched, then you will go for this statement, right? Otherwise, or else, you will go for this one. So if this is the comparison that we try to find a larger one, okay? So you will see if A is larger or equal to B, we will assign the winner score to be A right here, okay? Otherwise, for this kind of condition, that means A is actually, smaller than B, right? Then you will assign B to the winner score. So you can see this structure is pretty easy to be understood, right? So here are some, don't forget about this, here are some relation operators that you can use for conditional statement. So like equal, do not forget about this. If you want to say something about equal, for example, if A equals B, then you need to put two equal signs together. If you only use one single equal sign, that means a sign. Okay, that means a sign, okay? So you can see this is equal, this is not equal. Less than, greater than, less than or equal, you can see this one. Okay, I think this is pretty straightforward, okay? And we do have some modified structure. Okay, you can see on the left-hand side, this is if condition 1, okay? and for statement 1. Else, you will go for statement 2 right here, okay? This is the basic structure. But for the right-hand side, if I have a much more complicated situation, I need more than one condition right here. Then I can go for if condition 1, then I go for statement 1. Else if, right? You can have a second choice. Else if condition 2 is matched, then I go for statement 2. You can go for several different else ifs, I have to say. You can else if condition 2, else if condition 3, else if condition 4, and finally you can put an else. That means if condition 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are not matched, I will go for the statement below the else. Okay, so you can also put an else right here. Okay, so you can think about this. So you can see the difference right here. So do remember one thing. If you are saying something started by if or else if, you need to define the conditional statement right after if or else if. But if you are using the else as the starting word right here, you didn't need to put anything right here. Okay. So let me ask you to do this. I'm going to give the control back to you. Okay. So now try it. Try to key in these codes into your, I think you should create a new script file, a new M file, okay? And try to put all the codes into the script. Save it and run it. And think about, check whether you can understand the structure, okay? Once you finished it, you can think about under this kind of the assignment, of variable A right here, what would be the answer of step? Okay, as you can see right here, step, this variable step can be 1 or 2 or 3, right? Basically, the value of step would be assigned based on whether A is larger than, the first element of A is larger than second element, or the second element of A is larger than first element of A, right? So think about this. You don't really need to run it, but after you key in all the codes into your script, think about this. What is your answer, okay? What is the value of step should be, okay? You can also use the control with I, to perform so-called smart indent, right? Okay, so after you finished all the codes, if you think the layout is pretty ugly, not good enough, you can just select all the codes and press Control with I. Okay, so you can see the smart indent performed by MATLAB, okay? So anyway, what is the answer? What is the value of step? If you do think this is 1, raise your hand. If you do think this is 1, step should be 1, raise your hand. No one? Okay. If you do think step should be 2, raise your hand. Okay, I see lots of hands right here. Good. And if you do think step should be 3, raise your hand. Okay, I think it's pretty clear, right? The value of step should be 2 because based on what we get for variable A right here, the first element is 5, the second element is 9. So basically, we have to see 2 conditions. Definitely, I think right now, the second condition is correct, right? The second element of A, 9, is larger than first element, 5, right here. So these two part won't be wrong, right? It won't. We will go for this second statement right here. Or I have to say this is kind of the second section of the statements, okay? So you can think about this. If you are the MATLAB, imagine if you are the MATLAB, okay? You will go for the very first line. You will get the value of the variable A. Then you go for this you go for this. Let me put an arrow right here. This is the very first line that the MATLAB can take, okay? So you can see, okay, now MATLAB get the value of A. Then MATLAB will go for second line. And you will find out that this condition is incorrect, right? It is not right. So MATLAB will jump to next condition right here. So MATLAB will consider this potential statement right here. So once this conditional statement is correct, then MATLAB will run this part, right? And then come to here, I think MATLAB will forget about this because else means if there is no condition, okay, there is no condition above was performed by MATLAB, then we will go for this else, right? But right now, no. So basically, MATLAB will jump to the final word right here, end right here. So only this second section right here, second statement right here, would be executed by the MATLAB, okay? And right here, I'd like to introduce these two useful functions. You can see, again, this is so-called is series, is empty. So if you do have a variable, you want to check whether this variable is empty or not, you can use this is empty function. So basically, we'd like to check whether any subject or a subject has or has not missing data, right? That means whether there is an empty matrix within the subject's data, right? Then you can use is empty function to check this. Okay, so this is the very first thing. And the second thing is this one. I personally suggest all of you to give a star right here because this is very important. Fprintf. Fprintf can help you to, print out the message for users. Okay, for users. So basically, you can leave a very informative message to the users to understand what is the current progress or what is the message that this user should know. Okay. We will see the example later, but just do remember one thing. When you are using this fprintf, if you'd like to print out something and you try to change a line, okay, you should use this kind of the characters. Okay, basically the slash with n, it will help you to change line. Okay, this is the rule. Okay, we will see the example. So let's take a look right here. You can see this is an example. We'd like to check whether pre-data or post-data is empty. Okay, if any one of these is empty, that means we do have the missing data, right? So you can see if I go for pre-data first, if pre-data is empty, you can see this function will give you the answer like 1 or 0. 1 represents there is an empty matrix or empty data set or anything. If you get 0 from this is empty function, that means there is no missing data. Okay, so you can see if it's empty pre-data, what does that mean? You can think about this. If this one give you 1, that means true, right? If the condition right here is true, then MATLAB will go for this statement, right? So basically, if pre-data is empty, you will use this fprintf function to print out something in the command window for your user. Okay, so you can see the pre-data, what you are going to print. You can see right here, this is the square brackets, right? So that means you are going to create, right here, I would say this is the character array right here, okay? You are going to print out something like the pre-data from subject. Now you can see it is not a string or characters. Right here, this is a variable. So basically, what will be stored in this name variable is pretty important. For example, it should be something like nc For example, I forget the number, like 26 or something. It should also be characters within this variable, okay? Then you can see when you are using the squared brackets right here, you can concatenate all the information together. The full sentence would be the predata from subject NC26 are lost, okay? And now you can see this one. This represents change line. Okay, so once you print out the message right here, MATLAB would change line in the command window. Okay, so this is the way if you are, you are checking the data integrity, and if you find out there is any subject with missing data, you can just immediately print out this information, this message for the user. Okay, so the user can immediately understand, okay, I see which subject has the missing data, right? Let me do it again. Just check it. Okay. If we do have this kind of condition with 1, that means true, and we go for this one, then MATLAB will jump to this line, okay? Because you already have this kind of the answer. You have this correct statement or condition for the very first condition, right? But if now the case is more like this one, let me do it again. You go for the very first line, but if now you get the answer like 0 from the is empty, that means this subject do have some data for the predata field. Then MATLAB won't go for this second line right here, right? MATLAB will check the second condition. If I didn't get the first condition, it's okay. I will check the second condition. So think about this. If the answer right here is 1, then MATLAB will go for this line, right? Okay, so this is the second possibility, right? And how about the final possibility? Let me do it again. How about this case? If for this subject its empty predata is 0, again, MATLAB will jump to this line, right? But now if its empty post data is also 0, what would happen? Nothing would happen, right? MATLAB will directly jump to this one. So basically, if subject has no missing data, there is no message, it would be printed out into the command window. Okay. So for this example, I do prepare a script right here. So what you can do right now, you can just open this load data underline check.m file. Okay, in the MI materials underline L8. I want you to open this M file, and I don't want to explain it directly. I need you to read through this M file. I want you to try whether you can understand these codes, okay? So just open it. I'm going to give you just 1 minute. You just try to read through it. So you can find this code from today's, you can find this one, load the data underline check.m file. Okay, just read through it. I think there are only 21 lines right here. Okay, lots of them are the comments or just space, so don't worry about this. Just check whether you can understand what I'm doing right here. So basically, because I need to check every single subject, so I also use the for loop, right? So read through it, okay? Okay, so I think it's about time. It's about time that I can explain it to you, okay? So let me take the control. Okay, so I think in this load the data underline check.m file, you can see for the very first line right here, I think we can just skip these 2 lines. I think you know what does this line mean, okay? So anyway, for the line number 6 right here, you can see basically we use load function to import the nc.mat data, right? And I think you know what's inside, okay? And then you can see line 8 right here. You can see I create a new variable, reject data. Okay, and you can see initially I create this variable and I assign empty matrix for this one. So if you do this, you can do this right here. You can see I simply create a variable. However, it's only nothing inside. It's an empty matrix right here. So this is basically I just try to declare a new variable, but nothing inside. And then between I think line number 9 and line number 17, you can see this is a structure. This is a structure of for loop right here. Okay, and this for loop, you can see I try to iteratively assign the value of I within the for loop, right? So the value of I should start from 1 and 2. You can see the column right here. Okay, start by 1 and it will iteratively assign it to, I think, the length of NC. So you can see NC is 1 by 30, right? So if you use length right here and NC as the input, you will see the answer should be 30, right? The length of this structure array is 30, okay? So basically, I would start by 1, then go for the second loop, it would be 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically, it just helps you to check every single subject data, okay? And then you can see within the for loop, between line 10 and the line number 16 right here, this is a structure of if-else, right? So it's pretty similar to what I displayed to you on the PowerPoint slide, right? It's pretty similar right here. However, you can see I changed a little bit because right now pre-data is a field. It's one of the field under the NC structure array, right? So you need to use this period. But now it's very important that I'm not going to check all the subjects for every single for loop. I'm going to only check one specific subject for a specific loop, right? So I will use this I to assign which subject I'm going to check. So if this is the very first loop, of course, I equals 1, right? I is equal to 1, right? If this is for example, fifth loop right here, then I definitely to be 5 right here, okay? So again, I think this is pretty similar. Now I use the nc.name because within the nc, the field right here, the name field right here can give you the information about the label of each subject, right? NC01, NC02, whatever. Okay, so you can see I can use printf right here. Okay, I can use the square bracket right here to concatenate all the message with the nc.name to help me print out the necessary information. I will run it later so you can understand what does this mean. Maybe I can run it now. I can run it now. Okay, so you can see the information. The post data from subject NC26 are lost, or are missing data, or anyway. The pre-data from subject NC29 are lost, okay? So basically, you can see for this one, that means for the 26th iteration within this for loop, it's go for this condition, right? Because this is the post data. But for iteration 29, okay, 29 right here, I think this message is printed out from this fprintf function because it is written as the pre-data, okay? So you can see pre-data right here, okay. So now you can compare what is the difference between the PowerPoint slide and the codes. Basically, this is the main difference, okay? I need to assign the structure array, the name of the structure array, and I need to assign which subject. This is very important because you are using the for loop. You need to specifically assign which subject, okay? And I think there is a different thing right here. Just check this one. Previously right here on line 8, I assigned an empty matrix to reject data, right? But you can check line 12 and the line 15 right here. I try to do something. I try to increase the size of the reject data. Basically, you can see I try to concatenate the original reject data with the identified subject right here. So basically, if I find out this subject has an empty pre-data, I will add subject index like 26 or 29 into this reject data. So you may find out that after this for loop, reject data is no longer the empty matrix. You can see the result. Reject data now has the value of 26 and 29 right here. Okay, because within this for loop, I also ask my code to add in the subject index into the reject data if this subject match the condition like either this one or this one. Okay, and you can see finally for the line 18 right here, what did I do right here? Basically, I remove these two identified subject 26 and subject 29. I try to remove them from the NC structure array. So I assign empty matrix to these two subjects. That means I'm removing them, right? Okay, so this is what I did. So after all the process right here, you can see now NC would reduce its size to 1 by 28. It is no longer 1 by 30, right? You can double click on it, then you can check right now. I don't have any missing data because basically you cannot see NC26, you cannot see NC29. Okay, I removed both of them, right? Okay, good. So finally, you can see I use the save. Okay, we do know what is load, right? But now you can help what is save. I think it's pretty similar. I can save this variable NC into a MATLAB mat file. So this is a file name. So after you run this code, you should be able to see this one, nccheck.mat. Even you delete it right now, we can do this. I delete nccheck.mat from my folder, right? I can run it again. You can go back to this one. You can see immediately I may create or generate this nccheck.mat. And then you can see this is a file name, and this is the variable that I'd like to save within this mat file. So basically, I try to save this reduce the size, the NC into the nccheck.mat, okay? So again, I'm going to give you 1 more minute, try to make sure that you fully understand this code, okay? So let me give the control back to you. Just check it by yourself. And again, you need to practice what is the usage of f print f. Okay, you need to make sure that you know this. Okay. Let me do one more test for you. Take a look right here. How about I remove this part? I mentioned that this part represents change line, right? If I remove this slash and the n from the f print f, what would happen? Okay, just make a quick comparison right here. Let me do this again. You can just check my command window. Okay, I simply remove the slash and the n from the f print f. Okay, now I run it again. You can see all the message just concatenate with each other. Even the very last one, you can see now my command cursor is right behind this message, right? I have to say this is pretty ugly because I cannot read. I have to separate the message by myself. So I don't want this. So this is the reason that you need this one. After every single time after I finish the message print out, I just want to change line so I can read it very easily, right? So again, let me do it again. You can see it just help you to change the line. Okay, so do remember the usage of the fprintf right here. Okay. So you have 30 more seconds. Just check whether you fully understand this code, okay? I have to say for loop and if else conditional statements are very handy. That means they are very useful. And if you are learning any programming language like MATLAB or even Python, you definitely should learn how to use these two things, okay? For loop and if else, okay? It's very important. Okay, so let us continue. Let us continue, okay? So I need to control time, so I'm going to, okay, I'm going to take the control back. So now I'm going to tell you, I have to say two more, maybe 2 or 3. Let me guess. Let me check. Yeah, just 2 more. Okay. Okay, just take a look right here. Let me introduce you 2 more very useful commands right here. The very first one, you can take a look. Basically, this is a for loop, right? Again, you can see the for loop structure. We will have the iterations from 1 to 100 for I, right? So this is the I's for loop right here. And then you can see what I'm doing right here. You can see initially, in the very beginning, total is equal to 0, right? This variable is assigned by 0. But during this for loop, okay, we seeing this for loop, you can see I try to doing something like always add the value of I into the total. So for the very first loop, we can see total is equal to 0 plus 1, right? Because the very first loop, I is 1. So now total is 1 for sure. For the second loop, you can think about this. Total is 1 right now, right? Total is equal to 1 plus, now I is 2, right? 2. So you can think about this. This for loop basically is doing something like adding everything from 1 to 100, right? It's pretty straightforward, right? But right here, you can see I try to put a conditional statement right here. I didn't use else. I don't care about else. But right now, I only use the if and and. So this is telling you that sometimes you don't really need else. You can just forget about else. You can simply use if and. So you can see the criteria right here, the condition right here. I'm writing it down like, if total is larger than 3,000. Okay? Print f something. I want the MATLAB to print out what is the value of I right now, what is the total value right now, and I change the line. You can see there's something right here, right? And you can see I use number to string. What is number to string? I mentioned I think in second week, I guess, yeah. Because I right here itself, it is a double. It is a value. But if I try to print out a message, it should be a string or characters, right? So you need to use this function. I need to transfer the content of I into a string. So basically number to string, okay? I want to convert the value of I into a string format so I can print it out, okay? And pretty similarly, you can see this one. I try to convert the value of total from number or from double to string format. Okay, so it's pretty similar. So you can see, normally, if I just finish all the 100 iterations of this for loop, I will get the total value like, I think it should be 5,000 or 50. It should be this one anyway. But if I add this kind of the if condition right here, you will see once the total value is larger than 3,000, I will print out an information right here, right? A message right here, right? And then you see some cute guy right here, break. What would happen? Let me do this for you. Let me do this for you, okay? I can just try to get a new one. Okay, let me do this. I can save it. Okay, let me run it for you. So you can see the answer right here. I can see the the fprintf will show the answer like when I is equal to 77, we can see the total value right now is 3003, right? Then you can see the break. And you can see the I value will just stop right here. We didn't finish, 100 loops right here. We only run for 77 loops right here. Then we stop. Why? Because this break. Because of this break, okay? Just take a look right here. You can help a break. You can help it by yourself. Just help it. Okay. Basically, help. If you see this kind of a command right here, it will terminate. Terminate means stop. It will stop the execution of while loop or for loop. So because this condition is matched, then you will print out something and you will call for this break. So we will stop this for loop. Okay, do remember the function of the break. So I think I do prepare a slide for you. Yeah, right here. So break statement exists. That means just leave the current for or while loop completely. Okay, this is the example. But another thing is you don't have another choice. Continue. Okay, you do have this continue. But do remember, continue simply jump through or skip the current loop and go for the next iteration. For example, if you do just like this one, if you do change the break by continue right here. Sorry, what I'm doing right now. Okay, continue. Yeah, it should be the right one. Continue right here. Okay. In this case, what would happen? You can compare the result. You can see the previous result. If I use the break right here, you will see the final value for the I is simply 77, right? The total would be 3003. Just remember these two values. Because I use a break, right? Break means stop right here. Don't do anything more, okay? But if I replace break by continue again, that means I will simply skip the current loop, but I will jump for the next iteration. So let me run it for you. You can see what would happen. Start from this one. You can see I is equal to 77 for the first print out message, right? Then you can see continue. Continue simply means, okay, go for next loop, go for next loop, go for next loop. But every single loop after 77 matched this condition, right? You always has the total value larger than 3000 because you try to add some value into the original total, right? So you can see the total value just continue grows right here. And you can see the final I is equal to 100. That means you didn't break the for loop. Actually, you ask MATLAB to go for next iteration and then next and then next, okay? So you need to know what is the difference between continue and break, okay? I do provide two different examples on the slide. You can just read it by yourself, okay? But just do figure it out. And the final slide for the first part, you can see the switch case structure. But again, I have to say switch case structure is pretty similar to if else. When I say similar, not because of they have similar structure, but they have similar function, I have to say. Okay, so basically you can just learn how to use if, else, if, and else. You can forget about switch case. But if you do think you have additional energy to learn it, you can try to learn it by yourself, okay? I just try to leave an example right here. So if you want to see an example for switch case structure, I do provide an M file within today's folder, daysinmonths.m. Okay, so you can go for it by yourself, okay?